you're not really even saying anything when you say I'm enlightened. It's all only relevant within the context of its own definitions. As soon as you reach a certain tipping point of honest self-reflection, that can be considered to be enlightenment. But then, of course, that's going to be very relative between people, and because you're making your own judgment now, essentially, that's part of it. So it doesn't necessarily then mean that just because you've said that you are enlightened by this definition that you actually are. But it also doesn't mean that you definitely aren't. You have to decide it for yourself, and it's part of the, I guess, circular process of that honesty, and not taking it too literally either. It's still a loose definition, of course. The old definition was a loose definition based on a self-referential paradigm. Saying you can only really claim to be enlightened with the older definition, that you've had a spiritual shift, or your consciousness has become more pure. With that definition, of course, you can only ever say, yeah, I've done it, and then others essentially have to take you at your word. With the new definition, we're still kind of saying, yeah, you have to claim it yourself. But the only thing it really means the only person it really means anything to would be yourself. It's not really relevant to other people. Without really understanding the inner workings of somebody else's mind, if they say, yeah, I've come to a certain point of self-reflection, which gives me an enlightened outlook, who's to say whether that's true or not? In their own mind, it feels true. Or it doesn't feel true, and they're happy just saying it out loud even if it doesn't really feel true. So if I say that, I feel enlightened by my own definition of enlightenment, it's kind of somewhere in the middle. It feels true, but it also feels like a nonsense at the same time, which I think is with this current model, it's an unresolvable paradox. Part of the premise of building the definition of enlightenment was that words are kind of loose subjective meanings. So even once you describe the whole thing through, because the words do have subjective meanings, you're not really even saying anything when you say I'm enlightened. It's all only relevant within the context of its own definitions. But because we make that assumption that we're all sharing the same reality or isness, it's still something that somebody else can take on board, agree with to a certain extent, contrast with the older definition of enlightenment.